Own opening remarks, I'd like to yield 4 minutes to a gentleman from Virginia who is one of the most passionate and knowledgeable champions for wolf conservation in the Congress, Mr. Beyer.
The gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Ranking Member Huffman. Mr. Speaker, I rise today in strong opposition to H.R. 764. Rather than celebrate the 50th anniversary of the Endangered Species Act and the many species our nation's most successful conservation legislation has saved, House Republicans have relentlessly targeted the ESA and the wildlife it has protected. As co-chair of the Congressional Endangered Species Caucus, I'm deeply concerned about how House Republicans have proposed to weaken this popular, bipartisan framework that preserves our nation's rich biodiversity. Today's scheme, a bill comically and ironically named Trust the Science Act, ignores what scientists are actually recommending to preserve the gray wolf iconic species and allow them to reach adequate recovery. The protections of the ESA have allowed gray wolf populations across the country to stabilize and regain strength. But if delisted nationally, gray wolves will once again be hunted and trapped to extinction. Some of the things that my friend has mentioned across the aisle, where they've been delisted in states, 90% of the wolves have been killed already. We've already seen proof of this in Idaho, Montana, and Wyoming. Trophy hunting of these beautiful wolves is recently being reintroduced in Wisconsin, with states such as Michigan and Minnesota ready to follow suit. Just last week, the Washington Post reported that photos of muzzled, injured wolves have gone viral worldwide, inundating the Wisconsin Game and Fish Department with complaints. If we actually wanted to trust the science, we'd see the gray wolf has actually made progress in the recovery, but also that wolves in the northern Rocky Mountains are being killed in dramatic numbers, even the celebrated Yellowstone National Park's gray wolves. And why? To protect livestock? Wolves kill 9 out of every 100,000 cows in America. Wolves overwhelmingly feed on deer and elk, not farm animals, and prefer habitats with high forest coverage. Dogs kill twice as many cattle as wolves and 13 times more sheep. In Colorado, where wolves were recently reintroduced, so far they have killed 1 calf. Yet we don't say that all good dogs should go to the gravel pit when dogs kill twice as many cows as wolves. Premature listing not only hinders wolf research, but in this environment, it puts a nationwide target on gray wolf packs. I love my dog. I've seen the emotional complexity of canine consciousness, which they inherited from their ancestors. If you love your dog, thank a wolf. Wolf families are more like human families than almost any other species. They mate for life of their partner. They keep their children in the pack until they're old enough to look for a mate. Please read Farley Mowatt's Never Cry Wolf to see just how intelligent and charismatic these animals are. We're in the midst of a biodiversity crisis. Rather than weakening regulations that safeguard important carnivores who strengthen our ecosystems, we should be supporting all current scientific efforts by fully funding the agencies that carry out ESA extinction preservation work. I know appropriation deadlines are quickly approaching. If you don't like species being delisted, I have a letter you can join. I urge my colleagues to reflect on the successes of the Endangered Species Act so far. A 99% success rate, one of the most effective pieces of legislation in our history, and why allocating adequate resources is essential to promoting species recovery and monitoring. Instead of mocking science, we should embrace it. So here's a scientific fact for the fearful among us. Not a single human being in the lower 48 states has been killed by a wolf in the last 100 years. I urge my colleagues to oppose H.R. 764, and I yield back.